everyone, welcome back to my channel. In honor of it being almost 5 years of me having my flock of sheep and not sharing it on my YouTube page yet, which I'm so surprised because I'm constantly blabbing about sheep and how I got into sheep. So the fact I haven't talked about it on my YouTube page is crazy. So today we're going to be talking about that. When I was 9, we moved out to the farm. It was in 2017. Started out with 2 pigs and 25 chickens. And it was initially in the beginning just for my parents to show us kids where our food comes from and how food is grown and ultimately ends up on our table. We were all learning this together. Both my parents did not grow up on farms, although my dad had family that farmed and he spent a lot of time at their farms. Both did not grow up on farms themselves. So this was all a whole new learning process for all of us, not only for us kids who had essentially like nothing to do with animals or livestock before this. Like when we lived in town, we didn't even have a dog or a cat. I had never taken care of an animal in my life before. Maybe I would have helped feed my grandparents' dogs, or I seen other animals, but I of course never knew what it took to care for an animal. When you're at that age that I was, you just go to the grocery store and all your meat is already there. I never knew how this whole process worked and the whole circle of life and how the food ended up on our table. This was really great for not only myself, but also for my siblings and for my parents to be able to show us kids this whole thing on an even deeper level. After raising the 2 pigs and the 25 chickens, we did have some friends and family reach out that they were like, well, if you decided to raise more pigs or if you got more chickens, I'd definitely buy from you. And there were just people reaching out that were asking about meat and like wanting meat. It was the next year after we got more pigs, we got more chickens, and we're from there. So I think we got our first meat lambs in 2019, so 2 years after we moved out to the farm. 2018 actually. I think it was 2018 because we had meat lambs 2 years before my parents got into breeding sheep. 2018 I think. And I can remember I was in grade 5. It's crazy. I'm in grade 12 now, so grade 5 is insane. I was in grade 5 and they were Hank and Gizmo. Those were our first 2 sheep. We purchased them from a family friend who lives not very far away from us. Those are our first 2 lambs. We had those 2 sheep. They were hilarious. Sheep are some of the most funniest, entertaining animals I think anybody can have. And I instantly fell in love with them. We had Hank and Gizmo the first year, and then in 2019 we got 4. And after that, my parents decided that they wanted to be able to have their lambs from start to finish, which led them to purchase their flock of bred ewes the next spring, which was 2020. This would be the 3rd year of raising meat lambs. They purchased 10 bred ewes. They were due the middle of May and would lamb around until the middle of June. In that month, we welcomed 12 beautiful babies, and they were absolutely gorgeous. And of course, me being me, I fell in love with them. During that summer, we got to go through the whole process of, we did rotational grazing, flock management through administering vaccines, giving hoof trims, learning the best feeding practices, fencing, and just overall how to care for sheep. Now, fast forward, we're in 2020. It's now been a few years of my parents raising meat. Pork and beef ultimately were their big sellers. As they were growing the pork and beef side of things, of course, they decided that although they loved the sheep didn't really fit into their long-term goals. So they decided that they were going to part with the sheep, finish out the meat lambs from that spring's babies that the girls had, and then they would kind of be done. And then maybe in the future, if they wanted to raise meat lambs, then they would just buy them weaned, raise them, grow them out, and they wouldn't have to go through the process of lambing and all of that. And of course, I had fallen in love with the sheep and I could not have pictured selling the sheep. So I begged my parents if I could keep some of them, and it all started from there. I started out with 2 of the mature ewes. That was 2 of the girls that came in the flock when we first got the sheep, as well as I had 5 of the ewe lambs born from those girls. And then I think there was 4 or 5 of the wether lambs. The wether lambs were the meat lambs that would be raised for meat. Started out with those guys. Fast forward 5 years, I now have a flock of about roughly 40. They're all mine now. I'm just very grateful that my parents let me keep those sheep then, because I could not imagine my life now without all my sheep, all my lovely babies, and being able to do all the things I do with wool and sheepskins and skulls and all of that. I am focused on breeding triple purpose animals, so I have Icelandic and Navajo Churro sheep. I started out with the churros just because that was what my parents had before. I knew always from the time that I got into sheep, when I did get the sheep from my parents, that I wanted Icelandic sheep. So when a lady that we knew was selling her flock, I got my Icelandic ram from her, used my first Icelandic ram, then I just kept getting more Icelandics. Now I'm down the rabbit hole of registered Icelandic sheep and hope to be dabbling into artificial insemination in a few years' time as well. I breed my sheep in the late fall, around the beginning of November, and my breeding season goes till about the beginning to the middle of December, which means babies arrive the end of March, and lambing goes for about a month and a half. Once the babies are 2 months old, they are weaned, and then they are sent to their new homes. Most of my lambs go as breeding stock. I offer my breeding stock throughout Canada, and I also will keep a few lambs for myself every year as replacement ewe lambs that will grow to become members of the flock in my breeding program, as well as I keep a few meat lambs every year, and then they are processed in the late fall to early winter. They put meat on tables, and then I can also get back their hides and their skulls. In addition to the breeding stock, I shear my sheep twice a year. Their wool, most of it I sell to fiber artists, and then they process themselves and turn it into yarn or other fiber products, as well as I will keep a few fleeces myself, and I will wash and process the fleece myself and turn it into dryer balls, as well as I also make felted living rugs, which are vegetarian sheepskins, require no kill to get a fleece off of the animal. I will also offer the occasional spinning bat, card it into a bat, and offer those to spinners, and then they can directly spin that right into yarn from that. I am just so endlessly grateful that my parents decided to move out to the farm in 2017. I honestly could not picture a life without the sheep and not having my business, because the connections that I've made this far and all the opportunities that I have had have truly been the greatest blessing, and I am eternally grateful for this life I get to live. I cannot wait to see what the future has to hold. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you like this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. If you have any comments, please make sure to leave them down below, and I will try and get back to you as soon as I can. You guys can find me on social media at Prairie Shepherdess. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.